Are accountants more professional than developers? Uncle Bob again. Hello, I'm Chris Tanis. I'm a KMP developer. That's Mike's out of place here. Okay, tech sports call. They said they're coming out Tuesday, and I really believe them this time, guys. Okay, let's. I'm gonna be responding to this. I kind of understand what he's talking about TDD here, test driven development, where he's saying like any piece of code you write should have tests associated with it that exercise that code or at least document what that thing's supposed to happen. Yes, this is the optimal case, is that we have everything we need. And it's interesting with Uncle Bob. I think he comes into businesses that already have some process that they've already got a product market fit around, and then he comes in to do the version 2 of that to refine it and to refine the process. I think that's where his mindset comes from, because he kind of has this idea that the requirements are already finished. And there's like two phases. I do what I'm talking about with adventure-driven development. It's like discovering the product market fit, which is never easy because you're going down into niches and going into areas where people haven't been yet and haven't seen, or you're trying to take something that already exists, do it faster, better, easier, faster, some different domains, some different context, some different language, some different culture, etc. So that's kind of that's one thing, or just some deeper niche into some more specific category. It's not just bookshelves. It's like bookshelves from Middle Eastern style. It's only deeper down in. And applying these technology into more and more narrow niches, which grows the pie. Supposedly, this is the theory of capitalism. Supposedly, all right. Let's listen to what Uncle Bob is saying.
How do accountants make sure that their documents are correct?
Okay, so accounting and they're different fields. They're doing different things. Accounting is doing the same thing. It's just make sure you run the procedure exactly the same every single time. And even then, it's specious, right? So there is some connection to software development because accountants can make things fudging numbers. This is another thing capitalism is supposedly does, which there are things in business that are kind of like that, and there are things that aren't. But okay, so we have this idea that you're running through down a procedure. You already know what the outcome is supposed to be. There is one correct output. And when we're doing software development, man, a lot of times we don't know that stuff. We don't know it all. Like once we get the product market fit together, we can then create the APIs and then make sure the APIs conform to whatever. That's one thing. But getting there, I don't know if this helps. If this approach helps, but I think like after you've got product market fit, doing something that scales, I think it is appropriate. But and then and also then you can overdo it. So let's keep going.
They have a discipline that was invented 500 years ago. It's called double entry bookkeeping.
Okay.
They enter every transaction twice. They keep it on two sets of books, once on the liability side, once on the asset side. And the way they enter their transactions, they're taught this in school, you enter a transaction on the asset side, you enter the same transaction on the liability side, you do the sums, and then there's a subtraction on the balance sheet. Must be a zero.
Okay, I mean, is it ever a zero? Like, guys, this is like, okay, this is a thing. Like, okay, so I understand that she's trying to make the comparison between that summing to the zero, like the left-hand side being all the things you're trying to make it do and assuming it does, and the right-hand side being the code that's doing those things. And that if one side is expected to have this output and it's not summing to zero at the bottom, it's like conceptually summing to zero. It's like you can, these things aren't these things are not. These are Turing complete programs, but they're not the halting program is always going to be around. So even if this is like a false hope that if we could somehow cover every single case, that we would all automatically be far ahead, or have the ultimate where we never have any problems, and that's just not the case. There's always going to be some margin of error as your product or service scales. They're always going to have this margin. You're have an asymptotic approach to having no problems, but if you're lucky, that's the idea. But you're never going to have no problems. That's the work. You're going to have humans in the loop somewhere. Smash zero for customer service. That's give me a customer service representative. That's going to have be a human somewhere. I know we're trying to get to that thing where we can take as much of the stuff out, but there's a lot of like this computer stuff is dealing with people. I know people, and I have all kinds of exceptions, all kinds of strange things that happen, and you have to have another person come involved and figure it out. Let's keep going.
And you do the next one, next transaction. Assets, sum, assets, liability, sum, zero on the balance sheet. Asset, liability, sum,
that's
zero.
A cool calculator. I love that calculator, HP thing.
On the balance sheet. That's how accountants enter data into their books. For obvious reasons. They enter everything twice. Test-driven development is double-entry bookkeeping. It's exactly the same discipline. It's done for precisely the same reason. We say everything twice. Once on the
it's not for the same reason. It's not the same discipline. It's a completely different thing. But it is kind of double entry where you have expectations on one side and the actual code on the other that does that, and you have all these sets of expectations. You have this little piece of code that's running all this, get the inputs and outputs comparison. I mean, it's a very stretching the metaphor. It's like kind of, it's like I get the comparison, but you're really stretching it when you say it is. When you're saying test-driven development is double entry, that is word there. It means it's equal, and it's not only not equal. I think there's some idea sets that are equal, but the implementation, which people get stuck on the implementation, especially developers, especially me, when you're trying to explain something and trying to make and then we will, with the metaphor is good, make other comparisons that will extend the metaphors, if they call it. You can always overextend it, right? But you should be able to extend the metaphor a little bit more. But the double entry, I mean, I get what he's saying, but he kind of says it where it's like, no, this is this, so don't worry about it. Just as long as you do counting, you'll understand test-driven development, okay? It's like, I don't think it works like that. Let's keep going.
Test side, once on the production code side, they follow execution, complementary execution pathways. They wind up at a zero. Zero test failed.
Well,
little test, little code, execute, zero. Little test.
So you're saying test-driven development solves the halting problem? Okay, let's keep
test, little code, execute, zero. Same discipline, same reason, same outcome.
I mean,
do accountants have deadlines?
Yes.
Do managers yell at them and say, we need those spreadsheets by Tuesday?
But they have a known schedule of when things are being done and due, and what's expected to happen, and they have a throughput rate. It's the same as last year. It's the same as will be next year, more or less. And we're always waiting on other people's paperwork. From what I understand from people that do these accounting things, they're always waiting for somebody else to do it. So it's not really, a lot of these problems aren't their problems. There's like, don't give me the documents on time. I missed a deadline. What am I supposed to say? You didn't give me the documents on time. But boopity boopity boo. So it's like, okay, what are you saying? Just say, Uncle Bob.
Do the accountants then turn around to each other and say, guys, we're really under the gun. The pressure's high. Do the assets. Forget the liabilities.
They've been known to do that. Big companies have done that. Enron did that. How many of the companies on the Wall Street, on the stock exchange, are doing that now? How would we know? They get away with it forever, so it can't be that hard to do. So it's like, okay, what are you trying to say, Bunker Bob? I mean, small businesses, yeah. Big businesses, I mean, I don't know what he's trying to say. Keep going.
They do not.
I mean, the conceptual of it, yes. The examples are, no.
Yes, they go to jail if they do that. This carries the weight of law.
I mean, do they? When was the last time you saw someone go to jail? Unless he's doing outright, embezzlement or theft or whatever. How many of these people, I mean, Enron was a big example, but how many people, that was like years and years ago. Come on. Okay, what is a bad example? Let's keep going.
Law with it. Right? And besides that, they would never even think of doing that because they're professionals.
Right. Of course not. And never.
Why is it we can't do this?
Oh, is he being facetious? I can't tell if he's being coy or he's being sarcastic or he's actually like, they're professionals. They would never do that. It's like, no, they do that. What are you talking about, dude? Now, so for us, it's like, okay, now I think the thing about this whole professionalism thing, and it's like, maybe it's a boomer thing. I don't know. I'm a Gen X. So it's a little bit of a boomer thing. Professional. More like, do you care enough about your customers and yourself to build quality stuff that you can maintain and understand and update, read, and also train other people to take over so you can go on to do something else or better, or that's the whole point of this stuff, is it falls over because nobody wants to use it anymore, or going to another niche and find some more customers and you repeat that thing, because that's hard to do, putting the product market fit. So if you have that skill, you should be able to scale it up and make it easy on yourself. Now that might be useful, but professional, it's like, what does that even mean? Who doesn't even cares? What is it? People have overblown that, so it has no meaning now. So now you have to do this thing inside. It's like, you want to live at the end of your life, you want to look back at the products and services that you created for people and how you created them and how you treated yourself and how you treated them, and then go, look, man, I did something different. I just didn't do the rote thing. I didn't do the just extract, just scam, lie, cheat, steal. I didn't do that. I did this other thing. I gave them value and I fixed their problem and I looked out for them when nobody else would. So what? Come on.
Is there something special about software that we can't do this?
No. Other than the Turing complete thing and not having a procedure to follow. Other than that part, it's exactly the same. It's like, come on.
Are accountants more professional than we are? Are their spreadsheets more
What does that have to do with anything?
important than the code we write?
I mean, maybe. How did you get hired on, sir? Did he use a spreadsheet to hire you on? Because are you starting your own company? Can we see the software that you produced, or are you just doing the training books thing, which is fine. I get the grift. I mean, I respect the game. I respect the player too. It's like I get it, but I'm not gonna say it's not happening. It's like it's happening, and these people do this. This is a sales cycle. These people all paid money to come here and talk. They didn't do it. They weren't in there free. I mean, some of them were, but most of them weren't. Let's keep going.
Are you kidding? The code we write is many times more critical than the spreadsheets.
I don't know about that. Maybe we don't get hired without the spreadsheets. So I don't know, man. I get where he's coming from. It's like if you're gonna be doing scaling up your thing to have a bunch of customers to operate your whatever thing that you just decided. Yeah, that's important. But spreadsheets were important too, to get the money together to convince people to get your thing together. Either you're going to do a spreadsheet or somebody else is going to do a spreadsheet on this business thing before you even started coding. So what are you talking about? Let's keep on.
Often the code that we write is the thing that saves or makes the company money.
Well, of course, that's the idea. As software developers, we're trying to make money here, trying to produce software, goods and service for somebody that's finds it valuable that we fix their problem better than anybody else. I don't know. It's not that hard. These sales driven guys, conference driven, book driven, conference stuff development, book driven development, conference driven development, desk driven development. They want to make it seem like it's more than that, or they kind of side skirt the issue, or they really haven't done it themselves. I don't know. It's going to be all the above. It's like you have to find the product market fit, and it's not obvious how that happens. You get lucky, and you got to be at the right place, right time, right people, and just try stuff. And most of it's not going to work, but every once in a while you get one that works. It's like, holy shit, here we go. All right, like and subscribe. I'll leave the link to this.